Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into something absolutely fascinating, the exact point where timeless classic literature collides with modern digital edtech. We're going to explore how a truly remarkable 14-year educational project is literally breathing new digital life into the stories we all grew up with. It proves that the ancient art of storytelling still has a massive role to play in the classrooms of tomorrow.
To guide our journey today, here's a quick roadmap. We'll be looking at A Magia das Histórias, Lições de Coragem e Bondade, Contos na Era Digital, A Tecnologia como Aliada, and finally wrapping up with Educar e Encantar. Let's get right into it.
So, I want you to take a second and think back to your own childhood. What do a selfish giant who locks kids out of his garden, a magical genie trapped inside a lamp, and a brave little boy named Hugo plugging a hole in a dike all share? On the surface, you'd probably say absolutely nothing, right? But structurally, they have everything in common.
Because the crucial point here is that these stories aren't just passing entertainment. They are literally the seeds of wisdom for the next generation. Think of them as these carefully crafted vessels that humanity has used throughout history to pass down its deepest, most essential values. They give us a safe way to navigate the world long before we ever actually have to step out into it.
Moving into our first section, A Magia das Histórias, which translates to the magic of stories. This is really about the foundation of storytelling.
Just look at some of these universal elements of enchantment. We've got Snow White finding refuge with 7 protectors in a magical forest, or Cinderella rising from soot and ashes to a royal palace. We even see it in local folklore, like the legend of Anhanguera, where clever illusions like setting water on fire are used to outsmart opponents. These magical elements are absolutely crucial because they act as a hook. They immediately capture a child's imagination so the deeper lesson can actually take root.
And it really all boils down to this incredibly profound truth. A gentileza é mágica. Ela transforma inimigos em grandes amigos. Kindness is magic. It transforms enemies into great friends. Whether we're talking about a princess keeping a promise to a frog or a young boy sharing the very little he has, this idea captures the beautiful, poetic hope embedded in these tales. It reminds us that simple kindness holds a genuinely transformative power.
Which brings us to Section 2, Lições de Coragem e Bondade, or Lessons of Courage and Kindness. This is where educators start grouping these stories by the specific values they teach.
And mapping this out is actually brilliant. By grouping these stories together, we can link totally diverse characters directly to specific virtues. So, Little Tum Thumb, or Pequeno Polegar, using pebbles to save his brothers from a giant, that teaches courage. Hugo organizing his friends to plug the town's dike teaches unity. Colatino admitting he hid a watch during a mysterious night teaches honesty. And Aladdin learning he doesn't need to be some fake prince to win Esmeralda's heart, that's a total masterclass in authenticity. You can almost create an equation out of it. Take a selfish giant who finally opens his garden to hear the laughter of children, plus a princess who learns to look past appearances to befriend a frog. While the settings and the characters are worlds apart, they equal the exact same lesson. They both teach the profound value of friendship and inclusion.
Let's move on to Section 3. Contos na Era Digital. This is about tales in the digital age, and specifically, the evolution of an educational blog.
14. That's how many years the educational blog Histórias, Aprendizagens e Ideias para Educar has been running. Created by educator Maria Aparecida de Almeida, it's a project that has been dedicated from day one to bridging the gap between traditional storytelling and modern student engagement. And let me tell you, keeping kids engaged today is no small feat.
The whole paradigm shift of this project relies on one vital realization from the author. The story doesn't need to remain trapped in purely written text. It can become an image, a video, music, a podcast, or even a digital booklet. The ultimate goal here is liberating the narrative from a static page and transforming it into a dynamic, multi-sensory experience that actually speaks the language of today's youth.
All right, on to Section 4, A Tecnologia como Aliada, Technology as an Ally. Let's look at the actual digital methodology at play here.
When we compare the traditional experience to the digital one, we see a pretty stark evolution. The traditional experience relies heavily on pure text, a static pace, and the child's independent imagination. But the digital experience, it introduces animated characters and contextual background music. Now, notice something really important here.
It doesn't replace the text, it enhances it. It captures the fleeting attention of modern students and draws them right into the reading process, using visual and auditory hooks. I want to give you a fascinating behind-the-curtain look at the exact process used to bring these digital stories to life. It's definitely not just throwing text into a video maker. First, there's the writing of a highly targeted pedagogical script. Second, meticulously choosing the music tempo to perfectly match the emotional context of the scene. And third, selecting or even cloning a narrator's voice to ensure the delivery is perfectly calibrated for a younger audience. It's a very intentional process.
A great example of this intentionality is the 30-second rule. By deliberately limiting scenes to 30 seconds, the creator makes sure the animation doesn't just race past the reader. It guarantees that both students and teachers have adequate time to actually read the text and absorb their material together. It's prioritizing educational retention over flashy, fast-paced entertainment.
And you know what? The results of this methodology are completely profound. Digital storytelling awakens immediate curiosity. It makes complex literature accessible even to early childhood years. It heavily reinforces memory by pairing audio cues with those visual animations. And, maybe most importantly for teachers, it provides ready-to-use, incredibly engaging resources for educators who are literally competing with smartphones for their students' attention every single day.
Finally, we arrive at Section 5, Educar e Encantar. This explores the ultimate philosophy of learning at play here. To educate is to enchant.
Technology, when used with purpose, serves reading, imagination, and human formation without losing its tenderness. That perfectly summarizes why this methodology matters so much to anyone interested in childhood development or education. It is absolute proof that we can innovate digitally while completely preserving the heart, the soul, and the tenderness of a classic story.
Ultimately, as this beautiful quote reminds us, educating is also enchanting. It's about opening windows to new worlds and helping a child discover that stories can teach them the most profound lessons about courage, respect, friendship, hope, responsibility, and love. That is the true superpower of this methodology.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final thought to ponder. How will you use the magic of storytelling to enchant the next generation? Because while the tools have certainly changed, the human need for a great story absolutely hasn't. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I really encourage you to keep finding new, creative ways to share the wisdom of the past with the bright minds of our future.